In the last 12 months, I've spent $30,000 on myself, and in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you exactly what I've learned so that you can take all of the lessons without spending the money. So let's jump in. First off, a little bit of background. I've spent, since 2019, I have gone all in on doing sales for high ticket online coaches. I've had the pleasure of selling for a lot of the larger coaches in the world. I earned hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions. I have led dozens and dozens of closers and managed them and trained them. And about 12 months ago exactly, around May 2023, I made a very conscious decision that I wanted to take things to a completely different level. You know, I didn't just want to be a salesperson making money on commission, but I wanted to really take on the intrapreneur role within my agency and within my business. And I made a very intentional decision to level up. And over the last 12 months, I've seen some insane results. Unsurprisingly, I've made more money than I've ever made before because of the actions that I took. So in this video, I'm just gonna walk you guys through exactly what I invested in, the different courses, masterminds, events that I invested in, how much I paid for them, and most importantly, the exact lessons and takeaways that I learned that allowed me to have my biggest financial year of my life. Okay, and we're just getting started. By the way, I'm well aware that 30 grand isn't really that much. For me, it was significant. It's the most I've ever spent on myself, but I have friends who are spending hundreds of thousands on themselves, and it's definitely a goal of mine to make that happen. But let's jump into it. First off, a little bit of context. Before 12 months ago, right before May of 2023, I was pretty good at sales. I'm pretty great at sales, in my opinion. And everything that I learned, the thing was it took me 4 years to learn it, right? I learned all of it through trial and error, through highs and lows and spending time on the phones. And when I was looking at this level up, when I was looking at the rest of 2023 and now 2024, I wanted to learn things a lot quicker. Like, I don't want to spend years learning skills that I can just pay somebody to teach me in a matter of a few months, right? So the first thing that I did was I spent 10 grand on a coach to teach me how to do content, right? To coach me through my personal brand, and specifically my YouTube, right? The thing was, I spent like maybe a month posting really shitty TikTok videos just on my own, just trying to figure it out. I'm good at sales, I'm good at communicating and getting my point across and understanding who I'm speaking to, but I didn't know how to package it. I didn't understand the strategy. I didn't understand the approach, right? I had no idea what I was doing. So I found these guys online, and I knew who they were. I knew that they knew what they were talking about. I hopped on the call. I didn't expect it to be 10 grand, to be honest with you, but when I found out the price, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that was a small amount of money to me, because it's not. 10 grand is definitely significant. But on the call, when I saw what they were doing, and then I looked at my goals, like especially then, man, like I was looking at the people in my industry, and like I just knew that I could crush everybody, but they were just better at the content than I was, right? So I was looking at my goals, they were massive. I'm looking at the price tag, they didn't even compare, right? No brainer, 10 grand, I spent it, I invested it. And that's the first lesson that I got from it, right? Is when you guys are investing in yourself, ask yourself, okay, like maybe right now you're not in a freaking, you're not balling out of control, but it's like, where do you want to be, right? What are your goals? And I think if you're actually serious about your goals, if you tell yourself, hey, I want to make 100 grand a month one day, if you genuinely believe that you can make that happen, I think you're going to easily justify any kind of investment into any coaching, right? And that's exactly what I did, right? It wasn't easy, it was kind of uncomfortable, but I pulled the trigger right away, made it happen. Immediately after I did that, it was massive execution, right? Skin in the game. I spent the money. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take full advantage of this. I was coming in with the mindset that I was going to be these guys' best freaking case study. I was going to execute everything faster and better than everybody else could in their program. And I was gonna see the biggest results. Keep in mind, early 2023, I had zero social media presence. Like I maybe had like 2 pictures on my Instagram with 800 followers, Like I was always like, I just didn't like social media, and I didn't wanna, spend time and energy like putting together freaking pictures, right? Basically immediately, like my YouTube started doing well, especially on the business side, right? I use this to attract the right people to my sales training program, where we train salespeople and help them find opportunities in the space. And in 12 months of doing it, I have barely a few thousand subscribers, but I've done a few six figures in revenue, and I've generated hundreds of inbound book calls from it, right? So it's clearly working because I executed fast, because I spent money, it hurt a little bit, I executed everything quickly. And the third thing was whatever skill you're trying to learn, right? Like I think the reason why I really took off with that program was because there was a system, right? It was already done. Someone else had already figured out how to make it work. And then all I had to do was just plug everything in, do exactly what I needed to do, and I would go and see the results, right? So I think that's an important point is you can shortcut your learning if you can just find someone else who's figured out a system, right? That you can just replicate, right? Now let's move on to the next thing. I also, I think with the coaching for the content, I learned a new skill set, which was cool. But I also spent a lot of time over the last 12 months going out to events and masterminds, right? And one of the first ones that I went out to was a private event with a few guys who were in the info product space, more of like an intimate thing. It was a 2-day event out in Arizona. This was the first time I took a trip completely on my own. You know, before that, I always thought that was kind of weird, but you know, I did it, right? I kind of stepped out of my comfort zone, went out to a place I'd never been before to hang out with some guys that I didn't really know too well. I think one is I gained the confidence to do that. Two, I expanded my network, and I realized that like a lot of the guys who were, you know, quote unquote ahead of me, who were maybe making more money than me, like they weren't like better than me, you know what I mean? Like just getting in the room and being surrounded by those people, like it kind of made me realize like, hey, like these guys are human too, right? Like these guys aren't, you know, super special where they're able to go and see these crazy results. Like they just executed when I did it, you know? And I think getting in the room was an important step. After I did the Arizona event, we went out to a mastermind in Utah. Actually a couple of our clients were actually speaking at this massive entrepreneur event. Like these guys filled out in an arena, and myself and a couple of my partners, Rome and Amon, and Dylan as well, we all went out. And you know, there's a couple of things that I learned at that event. Really, I went there because, you know, I wanted to see how the speakers move, right? I wanted to see like how they spoke on stage. You know, what was their delivery like? What was the structure of what they were talking about? How did they get their point across? You know, and I just wanted to be in that room and see what would happen. One of the biggest things I learned from that event in Utah was the power of storytelling, right? So let me give you guys a little bit of context. This was a crazy event, by the way. Like there was like 20 massive entrepreneurs with huge followings, like multiple multi-billionaires and 9-figure entrepreneurs were speaking at this event. Like it was really cool. There was this one guy who spoke, his name was David Meltzer. He's a multi-billionaire, right? This guy went up and spoke. He made a point. He was talking about how, you know, there's a give and take relationship in business and in life, and you know, us as entrepreneurs, we're always giving, but sometimes we have to be willing to, you know, accept and receive as well, right? It was an interesting point that he was making, but the thing was it totally fell flat, right? Because he was just talking the entire time. The guy that went right before David Meltzer was Ed Milet. And if any of you guys know Ed Milet, like he's an insane speaker. He's one of the best speakers on the planet. And you know, his entire speech, he was going over like really in-depth stories of his childhood and his upbringing and his relationships. And you know, he would tell this crazy story, and then he would deliver a message right at the end. He would deliver a lesson right at the end. And just his ability to storytell made the point and the lesson at the end so much more powerful. And it was so interesting seeing it side by side and seeing the contrast between storytelling and non-storytelling, right? Both of these guys insanely successful, but the delivery of a point can completely change how someone receives it, right? And something that we're doing a lot more, something that we've been doing and we're going to continue doing more and more of are running live events, right? Like we've already done 3 live events, or we've had, you know, 80 people fly out to either Toronto or Miami. You know, and I've got the opportunity to speak on stage and deliver my message. And I think getting in that room and seeing how the best of the best speak and analyzing how they did it, I think that was really valuable. moving forward, right? So the next thing, and by the way, both of these tickets, the first mastermind out in Arizona, I think was $500. And the Limitless event in Utah, the one I was just telling you about, was also $500, right? So pretty cheap, but not free. The next thing that I got, I spent $5,000 on a course that would teach me how to do specifically short form content, right? And keep in mind at this point, I'm making short form content, but I'm really focusing more on the YouTube because I was getting a lot more traction on YouTube. I was enjoying it more. I felt like I was better at it. But around, this was actually like December of 2023, just before the start of the new year. I was like, oh, I'm not doing any short form. Like I'm leaving money on the table. Let me get into that, right? And the lesson that I got from this actually wasn't what I expected. I got this course that would teach you how to do like all this crazy shit with the edits and how to make the short form and how to make them really good and go viral and all of that. But again, it didn't really connect with me. I really liked the YouTube stuff, but the quick dopamine hitting 60-second videos, I can do them, but I'm not really excited by them, right? The lesson that I learned from spending $5,000 on this program, basically the first week I realized that I didn't really want to do short form content. And I really understood the concept of a push versus a pivot, right? So there's two things that you can do in any business situation or just in any life situation, right? Is you can push, you can keep doing the thing that you're already doing, but just do more of it, or you can pivot where you take a different approach, right? And in my case, the YouTube was working really well. But I felt I needed to pivot rather than push, and I made the wrong decision. And I spent $5,000 learning that lesson. But looking back on it, I wouldn't take that back. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I learned the lesson. And now I'm totally all in on YouTube, and I'm not really distracting myself with other things, right? I think that was really valuable. And I think a lot of people will spend money on a course and then be like, oh, I didn't make a dollar return from this. And then they think it was just a complete failure. When I got a really valuable lesson from that, which in the long run, and it probably has already made me an ROI, right? By just teaching me that, hey, I need to double down on what's already working. And I hope you guys can see the parallels with this, whether it's, you don't have to be doing content to learn from this stuff, right? But anyways, let's keep going. The most recent thing that I invested into, I spent $8,000 going out to a private workshop with an entrepreneur that I follow online. He runs a 9-figure business. He's very well connected in, just the space that I'm in and a lot of the guys in this world. And he also runs a massive sales organization, right? What happened was I was actually on an Instagram live, just randomly. He was talking about this event. And I'm the type of person where if there's an opportunity in front of me, it's I want to move fast. I want to be decisive, especially in my line of work, where I'm working with people and I'm helping other people take that step and make that decision. In my case, I've made a decision a long time ago that I need to move fast and be decisive in every single case, right? Because that's what I expect my people to do, right? Anyways, I was on an Instagram live randomly, heard about this thing. This event was out in LA. I'm from Toronto, right on the other side of freaking North America. And I'm just fuck it, let's do it, right? And what happened at that event, also one of those things where I spent the money knowing that, not really knowing what I wanted to get out of it actually, right? Just knowing that, hey, here's a guy in my space who's super successful. Let me pop out and see what happens, right? Something I've heard Alex Hormozy say is, you got to ask yourself when you're making decisions, hey, what's going to lead to the more epic story, right? I could have easily just been nope, I'm just going to save $8,000, throw that into freaking crypto or stocks or whatever. But I was no, fuck it, let's do it. So that was 2 weeks out, hop on a flight, again, solo trip, all the way out to LA. The event was in Beverly Hills, which was beautiful. I never would have gone to the Beverly Hills if I didn't go to this event. And the big takeaways that I got from this, it was really cool because it was a really intimate event, right? It was a very small group, and I got to work with the entrepreneur there and also a lot of the people in attendance really closely, right, and create some cool connections. Some of the first big takeaway that I got is that, it made me realize that I have blind spots, right? There's things that I don't see when I'm in my office every single day grinding, right? But when I fly across the country to go out to an event like this, and someone who's in a position of authority, right, like someone who's clearly more successful than I am can look at my situation and just be like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like, yeah, wow, like that's so obvious, but you're right, I need to do it. And then all of a sudden you just execute, right? Where it's like we all have these certain things that we know we should do or maybe should do, but then it's like when you have someone who's coming from a place of authority just tell you to do it, it's like, oh my God, yeah, it was literally that simple. Let me just do it. The two things that I got were, one, is the private event, right? The private event that I went out to, we're actually going to replicate something very similar with our business, where we work with a small group of people in a very intimate setting, because being there in attendance, I saw how valuable it was firsthand. Boom, instantly, I got back, we're implementing the exact same thing, and our first one is actually going to be at the end of July, which is going to be cool. The next thing was starting a podcast, right? We have a beautiful office. We have plenty of space to be running podcasts. He spoke about the value of podcasts and what it did with his business. And he was like, hey, you should have a podcast, like no brainer. The most successful people online who have personal brands, every single one of them have podcasts. Why wouldn't you? No brainer. Wow. You know, did I have to fly out all the way to get that message? No, but if I didn't fly out all the way, then I don't know if I would be executing on building a podcast or starting a private, intimate mastermind as hard as I am right now, right? That was one, right? Was kind of identifying blind spots, and the other thing that I took from that event too, because it was definitely like a higher level group of people, right? Like I'm 23 years old, you know, I've accomplished some cool things, but I'm nowhere near the level of a lot of these other entrepreneurs out there. You know, I'm in a room with 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. There was a guy at that event who, you know, he had done, I forget what the number was, but there was this dude who ran a private equity company out in Silicon Valley, right? Who was responsible for billions and billions of dollars of, you know, transactions of buying businesses, right? And working closely with, you know, Apple and Samsung and these different tech companies, right? This guy was in the room. And, you know, like I was having a conversation with him, right? Like we were going back and forth for like 10 minutes, which was really cool. You know, a lot of the other entrepreneurs in the room, like I was having back and forth and conversations, and there was mutual respect with people who were miles ahead of me. And, you know, I think that was really important for my confidence, because, you know, it kind of made me realize that, like, hey, like, you know, I'm capable of so much more, right? It kind of made me see myself in a different light, because I gave myself the shot and I put myself in that room and I gave myself the opportunity to converse with these people, you know? I think that was very interesting, right? So it's all small things, right? But add it all together, and, you know, I've been able to have the best year of my life in the last 12 months. And it's like we're only getting started, you know? So for anybody doing the math, because I'm doing it with you, 10 grand on the coaching for my organic funnel. It was $1,000 for 2 masterminds. It was $5,000 for the short form course, which I didn't use at all. It was the $8,000 event, so we're coming out to 13, 14, 24. On top of that, I spent at least 10 grand on travel this year. I've traveled more than I ever had in the last 12 months. I went to Portugal, I went to Miami 3 times, Utah, Arizona, Mexico. And, you know, even with travel, right, I see that as an investment into myself, right? The thing is every time I get on a flight and I go somewhere new, just a change of location, a change of environment, new people around me, I'm able to look back at my day-to-day with an entirely new perspective. And every single time, like, I have complete epiphanies on what I need to do, right? Ideas that just enter my mind, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to take action on these things, right? Whether it's a mastermind or if it's just going to Mexico for a week and just, you know, hanging out and relaxing, right? Absolutely see that as an investment in myself. And by the way, the best part, all of this stuff, total tax write-off, right? All education for business purposes. Yeah, I plan on doing it and 10xing this over the years, right? I think the big, broad lessons that I've learned, and I'll share them with you just over the last year, there's a couple things, right? First of all, just by, like, I've been able to trade money, right? Trade pixels on my phone, basically, for entirely new skill sets, for a totally expanded vision and mindset, and for like a network that I never even had before, just by staying, local and staying in Toronto up until that point, right? Incredibly valuable. Like I can't even put a dollar amount to those things, right? That's one. Two, I realized that, especially when I started, investing in myself and learning new skills, and especially learning things fast, it's like I start seeing results instantly, right? At least I start seeing progress instantly, and it made me realize that, like, I used to be so caught up in my day to day, right? Okay, work harder, work harder, work harder. But it's like the moment that you start learning new skills, instantly, new pathways just open up, right? And I really realized and internalized that, everything that I want to accomplish in my life is on the other side of skills that I haven't learned yet. And it's actually so easy to find people who can just teach you those skills, and then therefore you can accomplish everything that you want in your life. Like that never really clicked for me, but I think it's really been solidified over the last year. And finally, I learned to really move with abundance, right? And I really, acted upon a lot of the stuff that, I've been preaching within my teams and, with my prospects for so long is like, you got to act with abundance, right? You got to take massive action. You got to do things that scare you, right? Like for a long time, like I had money in the bank, I was good, but it's like I would hoard it, right? I would hang on to it, right? And I realized that, like, hey, if I'm young and I want to see massive results while I'm young, I need to get aggressive. Like I shouldn't be investing into the freaking S&P 500. Like I should be taking that money and putting it into skill sets that it can make more and more money, right? It's just accelerated everything, right? So just ranting on this video, but I've learned a lot, and I know this is a little bit different from like the typical sales stuff that I put out there, but I think it's really important that whether you're in business or if you're in sales or if you're just trying to get into these things, it's like you have to act in alignment with the person that you're trying to become. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, have freaking nice cars, nice mansion, financial freedom, be able to travel. It's like I feel pretty confident saying that everybody wants those things to some extent, but it's like the way that you're going to get those things is going to be a byproduct of your skill sets, right? And you can either spend years like I did learning the skill set and then eventually get good at it 5 years from now, or you can use the tools that we have that have literally never been available to any form of human history, right? Use the tools that we have right now to access the smartest people in whatever industry that you want to get into, pay them, like save up, pay them, and you'll learn those things, right? Last point that I'll share with you, just to get tactical with this, because I think the biggest thing that stops people from investing into themselves is like, they're kind of broke, right? But again, I think that's the exact reason why you should be investing into yourself. If you're broke and you're not making a lot of money, you should be investing into yourself aggressively, right? Okay, how do you do that? One of the things that I've done is I've set up multiple different bank accounts where every single time I get paid, every single time money comes in, it's getting divided up into taxes, into checkings, and into investment, right? So my investment account gets split up into obviously the regular stuff, but I also have a separate account for coaching, for traveling, for masterminds, right? Things like this. And I think if you can treat a bank account, if you create a bank account and call it like the investing into myself account or something, whatever, and then invest a portion of your money into that account every single month, right? Save up cash so that you can invest in the skills that are going to get you your dream life. All right, that's all for today. Drop a comment down below with some of your biggest takeaways, and I'll see you on the next one.